Bernie Sanders went on Bill Maher's show, and for the 38th time, he clearly showed the Democratic Party the path to victory.
Right. So you mentioned the Democrats lost last time, but your agenda won. You may not have won the nomination,
right?
But you talk about an agenda. They're all behind that now.
Yes.
I mean, Medicare for all.
Yep.
You know, all the people who are running for president, we kind of know who they are. And income inequality, all those issues.
Right.
But an agenda is not a message. They are different. Trump is better at messaging. His voters don't seem to care about an agenda or anything except build a wall, lock her up. What's the Democrats' message? If you had to boil it down to something that would fit on a hat, which is about all people can take in at this point, what is the Democratic message?
The Democratic message is that we need a government that represents working families, not billionaires. An agenda that says that health care is a right, not a privilege. An agenda that speaks to the young people and says that we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free and lower student debt. That's an agenda that wins.
But Trump has shown that the American people, they elected him. I understand he didn't win the popular vote, but he got a lot of votes. And so and his popularity rating keeps going up, not down.
Yeah.
It's almost in the range of like a normal president, which is really scary because he certainly is not that. So they obviously don't care about so many things they used to care about, like decorum or policy or democracy or freedom of the press. So in this new arena, and he is brilliant at controlling the debate and controlling airtime. What does a Democrat have to do to compete on this new stage? It is a new stage.
That's a fair point, and the airtime issue is very difficult. You know, people say, why aren't the Democrats talking about issues? Well, you know what? In many cases, Democrats are, but we're overwhelmed with Trump's tweets and the absurdity of the day. So I think what Democrats have got to do, basically, is go into Trump country and talk to people who are now living in desperation. You know, the truth of the matter is, one of the reasons, in my view, that Trump won is that he sensed that there were millions of people in this country who were ignored by the political establishment. They're ignored by the elite. They're working longer hours for lower wages. They're scared to death about the future facing their children. And he said, and he lied, I hear you. Our job is not to lie, to have the guts to deal with the serious issues that they face and to take on the people who have power in this country.
First, his slogans are actually really good, and they're right off the top of his head. So Donald Trump has Make America Great Again, and that kind of caught on and became this huge thing. Bill Maher asks, what's the Democrats' message? So policy is something separate, but let's go with just messaging. What's your message? What can you put out there that people will digest and it becomes like a Make America Great Again type thing? And off top of his head, Bernie goes, represent working families, not billionaires. That's pretty good. You know, that's that reminds me of the Labor Party and Jeremy Corbyn. For the many, not the few. That's basically saying the same thing. The heart of the argument there is the same thing. Represent working families, not billionaires. And then he gives another one. He says, healthcare is a right, not a privilege. That's really good, too. You know, these things are all designed... effective slogans and effective messages are designed so that if you disagree with it, you look like an asshole. That's what the key point of an effective slogan is. So when Donald Trump says, Make America Great Again, if somebody on the left disagrees with that, you look like a dick. Because, you know, they always have the ability to fall back and just go to the plain-faced reading of what it says. Like, what do you mean? You don't want to make the country great? Now, of course, you can interpret and you can take a lot of things away from exactly how they want to make America great, and there's plenty of stuff to disagree with in that. But at face value, when somebody says, Make America Great Again, what did Hillary say in response? She said, America's already great. That's the dumbest response I've ever heard in my life because... you know, half of working people in this country make $30,000 a year or less. Our infrastructure gets a grade of D+. We're bombing 8 different countries. You go down the list, and it's like, people are struggling. Now, she doesn't realize that in her D.C. and New York bubble and her elitist bubble, but that's exactly it. Like, that exposed how out of touch she is when he says, make America great again, and, she's like, it's already great. Well, people are like, hey, fuck you, no, it's not. I don't feel like it's great right now. So I think Bernie's onto it there with messaging. Healthcare is a right, not a privilege. Represent working families, not billionaires. Those are both very powerful to the heart of it. And again, if somebody on the right disagrees with that, and they will, by the way, they will, have plenty of idiots like, healthcare is a right, not a privilege. Yeah, okay. Like Ben Shapiro about a year ago or so argued oh, you weren't able to get healthcare? That's crazy. I wasn't able to get expensive furniture, but you don't see me complaining. What the So, in an attempt to disagree with these very, non-controversial statements like healthcare is a right, not a privilege, they expose themselves for being clowns. And so that's the point of a good message and a good slogan. Okay, now, the second part I wanted to discuss was Bill Maher starts breaking down what it's like in the age of Trump. And he says, hey, man, people don't care about what they used to care about. They don't care about decorum anymore in the age of Trump. They don't care about freedom of the press. They don't care about policy. So when he says they don't care about decorum, I think that's true. And I think decorum has always been overstated. And it's funny because that's one of the go-to moves among establishment Democrats is decorum policing and manners policing. Like, oh, have you no decency, sir? If somebody says something crass or they curse, it's like, oh my goodness, we're all against this, right? Tut, tut, let me shake my finger at you. Now, that was always a stupid move, or maybe it wasn't a stupid move in like the 80s when decorum was at like a peak, but that from then on, it was mostly a stupid move because people are just regular people and they talk like regular people. And when you decorum police, you come across a little elitist and a little silly. It's like decorum policing is being over concerned about trivial matters, like the language somebody uses. So you're right, Bill. They don't care about decorum anymore. But I'd argue that's a good thing. Because it's nothing but a fucking distraction to care about. I'm not going to look at the substance of what you said. I'm going to look at how you said it. Like, okay, that's fucking stupid. So they don't care about decorum. You're right about that. The idea that they don't care about freedom of the press, yes and no. I think people do favor freedom of the press, but when Trump attacks the press, a lot of times they like it because they also think the mainstream media sucks, largely because they do suck. Just because Trump shits on the media doesn't mean that the media is by definition good. You can be against Trump shitting on the media and cracking down on the press, I am, while at the same time acknowledging the media blows. I do. So that one's a little more complicated, but here's where Maher is totally wrong. And this is something you see in his commentary all the time. He acts like, oh, the American people are stupid and they don't care about policy and they don't understand anything. They're idiots either way. He does that kind of rant all the time, like lambasting regular people, like, oh, you're not, what the fuck do you know type thing. And that's not true at all. I think the American people do care about policy. And Bernie agrees with me in thinking they do care about policy. Because even though where Maher is right is that, okay, people usually don't know, like, historical facts. Like, if you poll the American people, many of them don't even know who the vice president is. So, yeah, they're ignorant in that sense. But they're not stupid. Because when you poll them, they kind of know what's good for them. They kind of know, like, yeah, we should raise the minimum wage and make it a living wage and tie it to inflation. We should do pro-union legislation so that we have a strong middle class. We should tax the rich. We should do free college. We should end the stupid wars. So people aren't stupid. They could be ignorant. Historically, they are. At least in the U.S., that's what the polls show. They don't know, like, Supreme Court justices and shit like that or history or whatever. But that doesn't mean they're stupid. That doesn't mean they're masochistic and they're like, I am for policies that suck. No, they're not. They're actually for most of the right policies. That's why when you look issue for issue, the American people are overwhelmingly left-leaning. So they do care about policy, but the thing is, Bill, establishment Democrats have never given the people the option of voting for policy. So then Bernie comes along, he gives them that option. Shocker, he's the most popular politician in the United States. Look at that. So they're not stupid. And it's not that they don't care about policy. It's that the Democrats never gave them the fucking option. And then the one time somebody does give us the option, Bernie Sanders, he instantly becomes the most liked politician in the country. And then let's get to the final part here, which is Bernie's core message. Mars, like, how do you, in the age of Trump, how do you make it work? Because he sucks all the air out of the room with his tweets, and, you know, he knows how to control the message and get the nonstop media attention and all that stuff. And Bernie Sanders says very simply, you got to go to the red states. Now, this is the main difference between a guy like Bernie Sanders and every establishment Democrat in the country, is that establishment Democrats, and you saw this clearly with Hillary Clinton, they view people who are Republicans or who are, you know, nominally against them. They view them as an enemy to be defeated. So it's no longer about, hey, I'm a politician, I have this political vision, this philosophy, this ideology that I think is going to help you and improve your life. They lose that because they don't really care about people. They don't. They care about power and self-aggrandizement and, you know, being in charge. So they lose that ability to actually give a shit about people. So it's not like, hey, I'm trying to help you, I'm on your side, so vote for me. With somebody like Hillary, it's, you're a deplorable if you don't vote for me. So, like, shame on you. As if shaming people is going to be an effective tactic where they're like, oh, I can't wait to vote for the person who shits on me on a daily basis. They're not going to be in favor of that. So Bernie's idea is, they're not my enemy. Even if somebody disagrees with me on everything, I still want that person to have health care. I still want that person to have a good education. I still want that person to have a stable and healthy income. I still don't want to send that person's kid to go die in a stupid war. So that's why Bernie Sanders, you know, he's beloved by the base, the left-wingers, but then also in the primary, for example, he won more Democratic voters who describe themselves as conservative. So in the middle of the country, in the red states, Bernie destroyed Hillary Clinton. And you're probably thinking, well, I don't understand. How can that be? How can you have somebody who's more favored by the base of the party, but also by the right wing? He's the person who gets more independent voters, moderate voters, crossover Republican voters. How can it be he's more popular among the base and among the right-wingers? The answer is very simple. He's authentic, and he actually gives a shit about you. And even if you might disagree on the details, most people's reaction is minor details. He means well. That's what counts. He's authentic, he's genuine, he's honest, he means well, he wants to help me and my family. So I'm in favor of him. Whereas Hillary, you know, and all the establishment Democrats, people get this smug, you know, elitist vibe from them, where they don't look at other people as like somebody they want in their coalition through helping them with policy. They look at them like, how dare you not vote for me? You know, how dare you be a deplorable? How dare you not immediately understand that I'm trying to help you? And the reality is with these establishment Democrats, they're not even trying to help you. They're in favor of standard neoliberal, corporatist, warmongering policies. So listen, if you actually believe in your message, and Bernie Sanders does, of course you'd have a 50-state strategy. The idea that it's even a question, and by the way, establishment Democrats are not in favor of a 50-state strategy because they want to give up on everybody who doesn't already agree with them, which is a recipe for continuing to lose, by the way. But if you actually believe in your message, well, then of course you'd take it everywhere because you'd say, hey, listen, even if I can't end up winning certain states, I'm going to get a hell of a lot more support there than you'd think because I believe in my message and I'm going to spread it from the rooftops, from the mountaintops. It doesn't matter. I think I can convince you that my ideas are better, my policies are better. So I'm going to do that. That's why I'm going to go to Mississippi. I'm going to go to Louisiana. I'm going to go to all these places that the elitist Democrats put their middle finger up to those people. So, and he's right. I think that the thing about Trump, one of the reasons why Trump won is because he had this anti-establishment vibe. And people thought, hey, we'll roll the dice. Maybe he'll break shit and he'll actually help the people. Well, now the jury's in on that. He hasn't He just hasn't. His tax bill is a massive giveaway to the rich. He packed his administration with Goldman Sachs. He started even more wars. We're bombing 7 countries. He took it to 8. And the list goes on, how he's fighting for the elites and how he is the ultimate establishment president now. Well, Bernie Sanders is going to come along, and all that stuff that voters thought was cute before about Trump, like, hey, look at how unhinged he is, and he tweets. Now that's just going to look childish, when confronted by somebody who actually does care about the policy and is actually not faking it, like Bernie. So it's his election to lose, and every time he opens his mouth and lets me know what his strategy is and what he plans on doing, I believe that more and more.